Well, Shabbat Shalom. I'm coming to you from beautiful game farm in the Somerset East area, and I thought it quite appropriate that I should be in the wilderness bringing you this message. That um, first view of my tassels on the corners of my garment is the subject for today's lesson, and it comes from Numbers chapter 15. And I often get asked, walking around town and wherever, what's with the tassels? You don't look Jewish. Is this a Jewish thing, or what is what is going on with these tassels on your garment? And I thought I'd share with you some revelations from Numbers and the whole context of when God ordains Moshe to tell Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, sons of Israel, to put tassels on the corners of their garments. It is after a whole section of um, Israel grumbling and saying, if we were just back in Egypt, if only we had stayed in Egypt, um, and they're grumbling and they're moaning because they've just gone to spy out the land that God has promised them, and they have decided, um, uh, 10 of the spies against 2, Joshua and Caleb. They confirmed that this was a beautiful land. They all confirmed that it was a beautiful land. Joshua and Caleb in Numbers 14 say, they said to the whole assembly of Bnei Israel, the land through which we passed is an exceptionally good land. If Yahuwah is pleased with us, he will lead us into that land and will give it to us, a land flowing with milk and honey. Only do not rebel against Yahuwah, and do not be afraid of the people of the land. And so they confirmed that it was a beautiful land. It was an exceptional, uh, productive land flowing with milk and honey. And so it comes then, the 10 spies give their report, and their report is that no, it's giants. We can't go in there. And so Israel grumbles and they complain and say those horrible words, if we only stayed in Egypt. And essentially, it's a choosing bondage, slavery over what God has promised. And so it is a rebellion against God. And this is the whole crux of the issue, is the focus is on a rebellion against God. It's not laws and legalism, and if you do X, Y, and Z, God will be pleased with you, and then you will pass the grade and you will get in. It is rather, and it makes it quite clear, um, uh, in verse 35, chapter 14, I, Yahuwah, have spoken, and certainly I will do this to all this wicked community banding together against me. In this wilderness they will meet their end, and there they will die. And so um, he makes it quite clear that what is happening is that Israel is rebelling against God. It's not about whether they perfectly obeyed the laws or not, or whether they perfectly obeyed God or not. They were rebelling against God, and the rebellion against God was essentially lack of faith. They did not believe God, because God had said, "Go in, take the land," and they, on contrary, said, "Well, we can't. It's too big, and we're going to die." And so it's at the end. It's within this context um, that we come to chapter 15 and the end of chapter 15. Chapter 15 uh, gives a number of sacrifices and what to do for certain sacrifices, and then at the end of chapter 15 we come to this issuing of this command to make tassels. And we always think of the tassels as being a reminder to uh, 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 to obey the commandments. So it becomes a kind of a legalistic thing, and it becomes a, it's law, and it was only applicable to Israel, not to us, and only going all off on tangents. But essentially, if you look at it within the context, and if you look at what he says when he gives the command, it's more to do with believing in faith and honoring this God, this Creator God, and submitting to this Creator God, um, acknowledging the Creator, acknowledging that God is real, God is true, that God is Almighty, and He is the Creator, and we have rebelled against Him. And so to wear the tassels is a reminder that I serve and submit and honor this God, the Creator God, and and consequently obey His commands, because I love Him and I serve Him and I want to do what pleases Him, and therefore I learn to get to know what pleases Him, and I do those things. And so it becomes an honoring rather than legalistic observance, trying to please an angry God, which is something that the pagans did. So in chapter 15, verse 37, Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, "Speak to Bnei Israel, say to them that they are to make for themselves tzitzit on the corner of their garments throughout their generations, and they are to put a blue cord on each tzitzit, and it will be your own tzitzit. So whenever you look at them, you will remember all the mitzvot, the commands of Yahuwah, and do them, and not go spying out after your own hearts and your own eyes, prostituting yourselves. This way you will remember and obey all my mitzvot, and you will be holy to your God. I am Yahuwah, your God. I brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Yahuwah, your God." And so there is a very explicit, very emphatic uh, emphasis on um, the real issue is acknowledging who their God is and honoring who their God is. Paul in Romans chapter 11 tells us that we as Gentiles are grafted in. And if we go a little bit further back in chapter 15 of Numbers, there's a very interesting passage, a verse. He says, chapter 15, verse 13 and 14, everyone native born is to do these things. This is now the description of the sacrifice that must be done, and for certain reasons and so on. Everyone native born is to do these things like so, when bringing a fire offering as a pleasing aroma to Yahuwah. Whenever an outsider, so native born is Israel. Now an outsider is someone who's not a native born Israelite, so a Gentile, someone of the nations, someone outside. Whenever an outsider resides with you, or whoever is among you, for your generations to come, and he is to present a fire offering as a fragrant aroma to Yahuwah, as you do, he must do exactly the same as you are doing. The community will have the same rule for you as well as for the resident outsider. It will be a lasting statute throughout all your generations. As for you, so for the outsider will it be before Yahuwah. The same Torah and the same regulations will apply to both you and the outsider residing among you. Paul tells us in Romans 11, we are grafted in. Numbers tells us in chapter 15 that we, the outsider who resides with Israel, excuse me, must do the same. And so when people say, "Oh, you Jew, you're only for the Jews," or "You Jewish, why are you wearing tzitzit?" Excuse me. It is because I honor the God of Israel. I obey and I worship the God of Israel, and I seek to do and what pleases Him, and so therefore I subscribe to some of the things that are biblical that God commanded that Israel does, those things that are commanded of God and are biblical. And so I wear a tzitzit just like Israel is supposed to wear tzitzits, to recognize and honor my God, the Creator God. He is the God of everyone. He's the God of the world. He's the creator of the world. It's just that most do not acknowledge that fact. And so I wear them to remind everyone who looks at me, or not to remind them, they mostly don't know, but to remind those who do know who the God is, and to provoke those who don't know to ask the question, so that I might be able to tell them why I wear these tassels and who the Creator God is, who their God is. And so to turn from rebellion, because when we don't acknowledge him, that is rebellion against him. And so to encourage them to turn from rebellion against the Almighty Creator and to turn back to him. His son, Yeshua the Messiah, made the way possible for us to turn back to him and to reconcile a relationship with him. And so that is the reason for the tzitzit, for the tassels, and pray that it might encourage those who believe and worship the Almighty to do the same, and it might give you a means, especially if you are not as extrovert and boldly go out and proclaim the gospel wherever you go. If you need a little bit of something to provoke folk to open a conversation, which then allows you to make known the gospel truth. Amen. I hope that helps, and I hope that is encouraging and gives you food for thought, and perhaps begin a new practice in your faith. The Lord bless you and keep you. Yahuwah make his face to shine upon you, be gracious to you, lift up his countenance towards you, and give you his peace. Amen, amen. Shabbat shalom.